existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma Pochita Kaitrobotra Paramo Nimatsanam Satam Vidyam Vastavam Atra Vastam Shivadam Tapa Trayam Nunam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kute Kimva Prayer Ishwaraha Sadhya Vidya Avarudite Tra Kute Hi Sususudistakshana. Completely rejecting all of these activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavatam is sufficient within itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpatarur valitam pulam sukumukad amrita dravyasantam pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam ahur ahur rasika bhuribhavakaha. Oh, expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including the great souls. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, we're going to go over verse number 27 again. My obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are master of the monists. So notice here it says, Nama Akinchana Vitaye. So it's Akinchana Vitaye, unto the property of the impoverished, or Akinchana Gocha, means totally impoverished. Huh? Yeah, okay. Yes. It's materially exhausted. A living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be, in the real sense of the term, a renouncer. This is a very important point. Why does it say this? A living being renounces something for gaining some, well, first of all, everything belongs to Krishna, so you can't really be a renouncer if it doesn't belong to you. Anyway, it says here, a living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. A student, in other words, that's why it's saying, there's two reasons why you can't be a real renouncer. First, everything belongs to Krishna, so it didn't belong to you in the first place, so you're not really renouncing anything. And secondly, those people who renounce things is because they want to get something better. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Someone quits Microsoft to join Amazon. They're not really quitting, they're just trying to get a raise. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible and spiritual value. So, if you give up the material world, it's not to become a mayavadi, where you get something less. What do you get less? You get nirakar. Nothing, basically. Right? I mean, you get shortchanged, as they say in English. But you give up the material world for Vaikuntha or Goloka. That means something tangible and spiritual value. Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and others gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity for the sake of the service of the Lord. So pomp means you have very grandiose clothing and feasts, and you meet important people, and you get respect, and so forth. And prosperity means you have a lot of wealth. So pomp and prosperity is a nice classic phrase from Old English, pomp and prosperity. For the sake of the service of the Lord. In other words, they gave up the pomp and prosperity in order to engage in the service of the Lord. So for them, the service of the Lord was better than the pomp and prosperity. They were big men in the worldly sense. The Goswamis were ministers in the government service of Bengal, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was the son of a big zamindar of his time. Zamindar are the landowners. It's probably an Urdu word, or maybe Iranian word, or Farsi word. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. The devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord. There are many songs that glorify the lotus feet of the Lord. Usually, you don't want a song glorifying your cactus feet, right? But the Lord's feet are like lotus feet. They have beautiful signs on the bottom of his feet, and just beautiful nails of his feet, like shiny like the sun and so forth. And so lotus feet are always glorified. There's a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. He had a touchstone, and this stone was left in a pile of refuse. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. He therefore asked Sanatana Goswami for the most valuable thing, and then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Akinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property, meaning Krishna is the only property of a factual devotee. So this is interesting where it says that a Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. So this is a difference between most so-called gurus and incarnations, so-called, of God or whatever, and Krishna and devotees. Most of the so-called gods, God-men or whatever they are, they give material assets, and people willingly take them, and they think that this is the best blessing that you get. But you see, this man was very smart. He got what he wanted. He got the touchstone, which means that he would have any amount of wealth that he wanted. But then he was smart. He said, "Well, wait a minute. Why was he keeping it in the garbage? There must be some reason for that." So he went back and asked, "So how come you're keeping this in the garbage? It's such a valuable thing." So that's why a real Mahatma like Sanatana Goswami doesn't give people material assets. What does he give? He says A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has left all material assets. So that's why Prabhupada remarks in one lecture that he says, I have not bribed the devotees. They are voluntarily giving up everything, performing all kinds of austerities to serve Krishna. I did not bribe them. Like the Christians, they bribe people to become Christian. The man gods in India, what they do, they bribe people with material benedictions so that they become devotees. You see. So they're not real Mahatmas. They're not real spiritual people. They're businessmen, giving material benefits to low-class people who think that's the real blessing of God. He can, however, this is the devotee, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatana Goswami, which was thrown into rubbish, was not the property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees, just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. That's the point. Material desires and spiritual advancement don't go well together. So if our mind is always meditating on material advancement, at the same time we're chanting Hare Krishna, it's not going to work so well. To get those material benefits, you have to keep getting promotions after promotion, which means you get more and more entangled and entangled. And eventually there's no time for Krishna consciousness, or no quality time. The chanting quality goes down. And just like it was saying here that a helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. So even if you achieve your material goals, it's going to lessen the sincerity by which we chant, because now, as soon as you have more assets, you have more worries. When you didn't have assets, you were worrying about getting them. When you have the assets, you worry about losing them, or maintaining them, or losing them, yeah. So therefore, in both ways, you're going to be in anxiety. So does that mean you shouldn't try at all? No. If you're not a grihasta, then you shouldn't try at all for material advancement. If you are a grihasta, you have to have a minimal amount of material prosperity to maintain the family. It's your duty. You have no choice. But if you go overboard, just like I know one man, extremely rich Indian man, and he was the overall director of Microsoft in India. And he had a heart attack, almost died. Why? Because always on the phone, always on the airplane, always getting one problem after another. Right? Now, how long can you live like that? Always having problems. So he had a heart attack, and he said, "Okay, I quit." So he left Microsoft. But did he quit? He didn't really quit. Now he's what you call an investor. So again, worrying about his assets, trying to increase them, worrying about losing them. It's what you call an angel. They call them angels. An angel investor. They'll come and give someone who they think has got a great idea that's going to make a lot of money in the future. They give them like $400,000 or $4 million or $40 million to launch their company and their idea. And obviously they're expecting to make a huge profit in the future. So all that is risky, and it takes your mind away from Krishna. So this idea of becoming a kinchana gochara, materially exhausted, is an important, let's say, concept in Krishna consciousness. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. There it is. Kunti Devi, she knows she's a queen, right? So she knows what it's like that pomp and prosperity. And she had to suffer all her life because of her sons. And she suddenly realized that that suffering was actually good. Put her mind completely focused on Krishna. And then when the suffering was going to end, she said, no, bring it back. We prefer to have the suffering so that you stay with us. So in difficult situations, the real devotees, they focus more on Krishna. So they're not afraid of failure, material failure. They're not afraid of it. In fact, it could be a blessing. Depends how you consider it. But what is approaching death? It's material failure. You're going to lose everything. Right? So better you do it voluntarily rather than being forced. If you're forced, then you'll regret it, you'll be worried, you'll be bitter, and so forth. If you do it voluntarily, you're happy. So, the touchstone of Sanatana Goswami, which was thrown in the rubbish, was not the property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees, just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together, unless one is able to see everything as spiritual. In relation with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. So that's the whole point. In the Uttama Adhikari, you see everything as spiritual, because you see everything as belonging to Krishna. And that's why if you read the 7th chapter, if you read the 10th chapter, if you read the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it teaches you how to see everything in relationship to Krishna. Nothing is independent of Krishna. So, unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, one must distinguish between spirit and matter. So this is a Madhyanamadhikari. Has to distinguish in order to be an effective preacher. A spiritual master like she, even if one is a Uttama Adhikari, they voluntarily come down to the level of Madhyama in order to be able to preach effectively. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. Well, he sees everything as spiritual, so why would he throw the Chintamani stone in the garbage? Right? But, coming down a level of Madhyama Adhikari, he knows that for people who are not spiritually advanced, the Chintamani stone will make them fall down. Right? Why? Because they'll get so much opulence very easily, and then they'll become attached to it and become vishayas, or sense gratifiers. Like, for example, let's say tomorrow, let's say that Bhakta Daniel wins the big lottery in the United States, $350 million, right? So what would be the first thing you'd do with that? Well, everyone's giving it away. Okay, so Daniel's a bad example, it's too much of a devotee. Well, I'll give you some real examples. There was a nun who won the big lottery, a nun in New Jersey. She gave it all to the monastery and to family members and to the monastery. So she was not interested in all that money. Now there are other people, like just a couple of days ago, there was an article of someone, some African American and his wife. They won the big time lottery, right? And the headline was, they lost everything. Why? Because as soon as you win the lottery, you start getting a lot of phone calls from relatives you haven't heard from in years, from friends that remember you from elementary school, and you haven't seen them for 40 years. And then all these different people call you up with business propositions. It's just like that one gentleman that came here, Mr. D'Angelo, the tall black guy. He's a basketball player in the National Basketball NBA. He was making $200,000 a month. It was $1.2 million a year. And that's not a lot for an NBA player. You make much more than that. It depends how he was good though. He was a good player. He's lost almost all of it. Because so many people made business propositions. Right? Now if you're making so much money, someone comes up to you and says, you can triple your money in 6 months. You invest it in a new credit card company in Mongolia. You say, oh great, do we have any credit cards? No, it's an open market. As soon as you start issuing credit cards in Mongolia, you'll make millions of dollars. So you say, okay, great. Now, why would someone do it? They're already making so much money, right? Greed. Greed is like a fire. The more you feed the fire, the bigger it becomes. It doesn't go out. Right? It's not like, the more you feed a person, eventually you say, that's enough, I'm done, I can't eat anymore, right? But the fire is not like that. Fire, the more you put gasoline in it, the more it burns. Right? It doesn't say, okay, that's enough, no more gasoline. No. So greed is like that. There's no end to it. So, by the way, never invest in a company that's issuing credit cards in Mongolia. That would be the dumbest idea you've come up with. So this is the problem, is greed. And therefore, devotees, they're careful about not overextending themselves due to greed, the control, lust, anger, and greed. If you don't control those three things, Bhagavad Gita says in the 17th chapter that these three things are the three doors to hell. It says, let's see, where it says that, 17th chapter. Huh? 3rd chapter? Lust, anger, greed? Oh, maybe. Let me just take a quick look here. You know where the verse is? Huh? Yeah. Lust, anger, and greed are the three doors to hell. I mean, or let me see, 16th chapter. Trividam narakasya idam dwaram nasam atmam kamakrodas tata lobhas tasmat itat trayam yajet. This is 16th chapter, 21st verse. There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. Purport. The beginning of demoniac life is described here. One tries to satisfy his lust, and when he cannot, anger and greed arise. A sane man who does not want to glide down to the species of demoniac life must try to give up these three enemies, which can kill the self to such an extent that there is no possibility of liberation from his material entanglement. There it is, lust. When the lust is frustrated, anger and greed develop. I know a lot of people who were lusty and they didn't get everything they wanted, and then they became angry and greedy. And the greed has no end to it. So, here it's saying, a spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. So we should not pretend to be an Uttama Adhikar. It's very dangerous to pretend like that. Advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Well, what do kids learn in schools? They learn material vision or material civilization, which is, eat, drink, and be merry as much as you can. Make money to eat, drink, and be merry. So nowadays, for Thanksgiving, they sold, I think at least, we can look this up, over 60 million turkeys. So, and then they're warning everyone, because people like to take the frozen turkey and throw it into a vat of oil, fry it, and what happens is the turkey and the whole thing explodes. Because whenever you throw frozen things into boiling oil, it explodes. The oil will jump out, hits you in the eyes, you can go blind, or hit, go on your body, burn you seriously. And many neophyte cooks make this mistake. They do it here also. The ladies that cook for Synergy, they throw frozen, French fries into the oil, like that, And it's very dangerous, very, very dangerous. Okay, so advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living being in the bondage of a material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha, or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick at a cost of 50 cents. That's a lot more expensive now. If you get Guerlain or Saint Laurent, one of those lipsticks, it costs like $30, sometimes $50. Get a little thing of lipstick. And there are so many unwanted things which are all products of the material conception of life. All these things are bought, by the way, on Black Friday. All of a sudden, people come home with a big bag of junk like that. Why? Because they save 20%, or they save so-called 50%. They jack the price up 50%, and then they give you 50% discount. You think you're making a deal. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because even if the moon is reached, the problem of life will not be solved. Yeah, because you're still going to be subject to birth, death, old age, and disease, whether you're on the earth or on the moon. The devotees of the Lord are called akinchanas because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. They foil spiritual energy, or they destroy spiritual energy. And thus, the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance for spiritual progress. So we'll stop there and finish this tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan, Ki Jai, Koti Premanandi, Haribol. You understand there's one purport, you got to roll. Yeah. No, you're talking about pomp and prosperity, because they were head ministers of the state of Bengal, of the country, Bengal. Bengal was very rich. Still a very wealthy place, although you wouldn't think so, but still, because people have become, the British became rich by the tea business. And Bengal is a great place for growing, grains and fruits and vegetables. So it was very opulent in the past, and it still is in a sense. So being in such a high position, where everything is opulent, and you're meeting big people all the time, and making big deals all the time, they gave it all up. That pomp, that rich life, celebrity type of life, and power, and prosperity, wealth. Sometimes Australia had a whole boatload of gold. You can imagine how much that's worth. And he gave it all away. The last thing he had was a very expensive shutter. And when he saw Lord Chaitanya had it on, he could tell that it was a mistake. So he went and he found some beggar who had torn clothes, and he exchanged his shutter for the torn clothes for the beggar, and put those on. And Lord Chaitanya was very pleased. So this is the philosophy, right? Now, you're not in a position to do that because you're married and you have children. So you have to wait till the children are grown and properly educated and married. And then you can, with your wife, downsize. But if you downsize now, that would be a big mistake. You probably end up getting another wife about 10 years from now, right? And start all over again. So that would be a big mistake. And I've seen it happen in many devotees. They're married, and then there's some problems, they give up their wife. And then later on, you see them, 10, 15 years later, they're 60 years old. They have a young Russian wife. They met in Vrindavan on Party Club. So you don't want to go there. Haribol, just do everything the right way. Right? You'll be very happy. And Krishna will help you. If you're not advancing enough, he'll give you problems in your life, so you have to depend more on him. It's all planned by the Lord. Hare Krishna.